see love become, how do you translate that? Being close. Know that hate leads to destruction.
Hello and welcome, Charles. Also, this is a new episode for the Halal and Kosher Coffee series. It's a peculiar series. Once a year, I try to have this episode to think about peace. Apparently, this is still necessary. And unfortunately, we're getting one genocide after the other. Recently, with the one in Sudan. Why are humans? Why are we going to this extreme lengths to be so unkind to one another? You have an idea on this, Charles?
Well, unfortunately, we studied philosophy, so we have a lot of ideas about this, and a lot of people have written about this. But what comes to mind is, the human nature, la condition humaine, the facts about human history. What's always what gives me a bit of hope, maybe, or gives me a bit of perspective, is one of the books of Steven Pinker, where he kind of frames this history of violence, and he says, actually, relatively speaking, we were always super violent, and the last few hundred years we have only murdered, I don't know how many, maybe a few 100,000, where we've used to murder hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people. So it seems to be that violence used to be like a daily thing around us, and fortunately enough, in some societies that has now decreased, but it is definitely not the normality on the global level. And so I think sometimes maybe like people who live in Belgium, they probably forget that probably when you live in a relatively safe country like Belgium.
Exactly. Maybe I can ask you to help with the grind,
and you grind with words.
Is it an easy grind?
It is a heavy grind. It's
a heavy grind, and so the reason, to have a moment of reflection on all these things, we're actually preparing again an Arabic brew. The original recipe is inspired by Moroccan friends. I'm in a Hazina that gave me a recipe from the Casablanca region. And of course, for Arabic coffees, you usually go for a lighter grind. That's the irony. Especially a lighter grind, a lighter roast finely ground. So it means a lot of heavy work. And then the important thing is adding the herbs to the mixture later. Now, while we are doing this, we're kind of also having a movie night with Rebel, and the episode will be titled Rebel Without a Coffee. We'll have to come to that later. And a somewhat older set of movies, Star Wars, and how everything on this table is somehow connected through history, through our shared history, actually. Now, this movie is really to share humanity. It's from two Belgian Moroccan movie makers, Adil and Bilal. And it really talks about how people are literally moved to violence. Actually, the rebel that is being referred to, he starts out with no ideal intentions, but by circumstances he finds himself in awful situation where he does end up being a rebel working for the good, saving a woman in this movie. So a small spoiler alert. But
it is a very, very moving. It's very
yes.
Heartbreaking, moving, emotional. It's very, very strong movie. But it's,
yes, and it shares this perspective. Actually, all these horrible things that happen on all these sides, they're not inspired by religion. Although some people use religion to get people to move in that direction, and then we forget about the history. So what I actually wanted to do is share a little bit, as we're two philosophers, think about the ways in which Islam has had immense positive impact on all our lives. And the first thing is, of course, the coffee that we will be enjoying. Do you know about the history of coffee? I mean, we've probably talked about it.
We talked a lot about it. What I found interesting when I talked to you about it is that you told me it originates from the Middle East, but also originates from other areas, right? So there's multiple areas of origin.
It originates, well, the coffee plants originate from Ethiopia. So have a smell. Does it smell like a light coffee?
It does.
It does. And so what the thing is, it actually, we have to just add the coffee here.
Which is
There
how
we
many
go.
grams?
How
many grams are you doing?
We had a half a liter of water, so I went for a standard 30 grams, as 60 grams per liter is usually like a reference point. Finely ground. Now the thing here is, it's just asking to add the coffee first, and it will go into this boil now for about 17 minutes. So we do have quite some time to discuss philosophy, and then only at the end will it ask to add cardamom. So now the coffee light went actually out. So yes, coffee came originally from Ethiopia. It actually connects Christianity also in a way to Islam, because supposedly the first shepherd, Kaldi, who saw his goats being very energized, he actually brought the coffee berries to an abbey. And Ethiopia was actually the oldest Christian country. But in actual fact, it was in Yemen where coffee culture really started. And you know who started the coffee culture for us? You actually just left the book just over there. This is actually something, so why coffee comes to us is through Sufism. So do you know something about Sufism, Charles?
Well, we have talked about Sufism. What I know Sufism from is a form of, it's called mystic, right? But what I remember from it is you have a lot of philosophical traditions, and some of them are, very documented and have scholastic, histories. I think this one was more like a verbal type of. Is it correct? I don't know. Like it doesn't. They don't have such a literal tradition.
It is Islam mysticism. So I'm not an Islam scholar, so I might be making mistakes. So please add any additional information in the comments.
Shout out to Professor Danny Pratt, who did introduce us to Middle East philosophy.
Yeah, he actually just got me into this. All thanks to failing. Medieval philosophy was one of the few courses during my philosophy studies that I failed, and I had to study again during summer.
It's a hard topic.
Did you pass it in one go, Charles?
I did pass it, but I do remember that it's, let's say, this is like a broader topic that in like Belgian philosophy, Belgian universities, they tend to teach a lot of Western oriented philosophy. So if you have one course about Middle East, or let's say global philosophy, like other traditions, then it comes like huge. I still remember it felt very overwhelming. All these kinds of names you never heard about, languages you don't know, all these. So it's a world on its own that we know very little of. So
yes.
Remember, I had to study hard for that exam.
Yeah. And so what actually the scholars, so the European scholars, what they were trying to do was to unite the antique philosophies from especially Aristotle, but also other Greek philosophers, together with their faith. So that's how we perceived medieval philosophy. We would say, there were theologians, they had a pre-established truth, and they had to reverse engineer philosophy to arrive at those conclusions. And then you have famous scholars like Thomas Aquinas and Albertus Magnus, who really kind of laid the foundations for the scholasticism. But they took their inspiration from Islam philosophers like Averroes, Avicenna, or also known as Ibn Sina. Ibn Sina is the one who made a medical encyclopedia that was used up to the 17th century in Europe. So basically the Islam gave us medicine as well as hygiene, coffee, algorithms. So unfortunately algorithms, because now in these AI times you don't really know if we still want all the algorithms determining our lives. All those things have algebra, mathematics. We were still using Latin numerals.
Mm-hmm.
We were still drinking too much beer in the mornings, making us too drunk to work. So the Islam gave us coffee to break free from this tradition. And the reason, of course, is because we couldn't trust the water we were drinking. And the good thing about coffee, like now, we're giving it a good 17 minutes brew, so we can basically trust what we are drinking.
In reality, probably that was only for the elite, I suppose, in Europe.
That got to drink coffee in the morning. Not really the broader, like the industrialization was helped by changing traditions, not just coffee, also tea traditions, but in Belgium specifically, it was more coffee driving this positive evolution. We were really drinking beer for breakfast. And so this comes from, of course, you have the Quran. So this is my personal copy. I don't know if you have a copy of the Quran at home.
I do. I mean, it actually, coincidentally, so my grandfather traveled around the world, and he did some project we believe it was Egypt, I think, last time we examined it. It's a very old book, sounds like a very authentic copy with leather, I think, and it's very old. I think it's 150 years old or something. So yeah, it's a nice copy, I think, but I cannot understand anything.
This is also a nice copy, and for the people that don't know, so this does have like a cover at this side, but actually the Arabic is read in the other direction. So you actually have to open the book at this side. And now I'm not able to read Arabic, but this has just a very nice, it's Arabic on the right and French on the left. Not that my French is that good. So it starts with La Fatiha. That's Surah 1, and that's a very short one. So, au nom de Dieu, celui qui fait miséricorde, le miséricordieux. So, on the louange à Dieu, Seigneur des mondes, celui qui fait miséricorde, le roi du jour du jugement. So, it's about judgment. Mm-hmm. So, basically, and how we can connect it to Star Wars? How can we connect it?
Well, there are always many ways.
There's many ways. I think like the three monotheistic traditions, we can see it as like the first one is kind of a new hope for the Jewish people. There's a new hope. There's Moses. He frees them from the Egyptians, basically, right? They are able to flee Egypt, and he uses the force to do what?
Open the seas.
He uses the force to open the sea, right? And basically Christianity is the episode 4 in Star Wars numerology.
For those following our numerology.
Yeah, the Empire Strikes Back. Because if you think about it, the Empire really wins in that second one. And if you think about it, Jesus dies at the cross and the Roman Empire wins over him in a way, right?
Yeah.
And then the third one, the Return of the Jedi, and it's often debated. You know who is the intended Jedi?
No.
In Star Wars.
No.
Many people think it's Luke Skywalker because he comes back as a Jedi, but in actuality, it's probably Darth Vader. There was still good in him, and at the very end of the movie, he turns back as a Jedi to save his son. That's probably the more likely argument. Now, in this analogy with religion,
but then I can see a clear link, by the way.
Yes, who comes back in Return of the Jedi is Moses. This is some people that don't know Islam. They forget that
it is a rebirth. Yeah,
it's a rebirth of Mosaic law. Mosaic law being Moses' law, because what happened when Jesus died at the cross was the dilemma. Is Christianity only for Jewish people? Yes or no? And do you know how they resolved it?
I know there is lots of issues with that, right? Because Christians were, if you're Christian, you're banished, right? So is that right?
Well, they were really debating that, and some of the apostles were debating this, and you can read, I think, some of the letters to Thessaloniki on this kind of topic, on what they should be doing. And in the end, they kind of decided to turn back the Mosaic law to open it up to the Gentiles, the non-Jewish people, right? That's how Christianity turned from a Jewish religion or sect at the time to a universal religion. That was a major step also in abstraction, from nationalism, which was a very interesting step.
Looking back, it was a political mistake to kill Jesus so publicly, because it basically revived a new religion that was more powerful.
Yes, definitely. And then Moses, who's the returning Jedi in this analogy.
in this Jedi story,
he was revived by Muhammad, and Mosaic law was revived to create peace, actually, between Jewish people and Christians. Because in the region where we're getting the coffee from, Yemen, it used to be a Jewish kingdom. You know about this?
No.
So there was some part, but this was also political strategizing. They wanted to side more with the Persian Empire rather than the Roman Empire. So they saw being Jewish as a good opportunity in this kind of global politics. And unfortunately, we're all victims from global politics, and just a few wealthy and powerful men that are, creating these difficult times for all of us, basically. But that was back then too, and they would decide or make decisions to, let's have this state religion because it gives us an opportunity. And that's how Yemen became a Jewish kingdom for some time. But then they were actually prosecuting the Christians in their territories. And the Ethiopian Christian kingdom then intervened by conquering this Jewish kingdom, basically. So you had these conflicts going on. And in Medina, you basically had 50% of Jewish people living there. So when Muhammad united Christians and Jewish people, it was bringing peace, actually.
Was it around which century was this?
So that's around the 6th century.
Yeah, okay,
yes. Yeah. So Muhammad did use the sword, but he did bring peace between these kind of religions. And just as we said that Christianity was an abstraction to create a more universal religion, by doing this synthesis again between Judaism and Christianity, we kind of get a higher abstraction. I like to use another analogy. I don't know how your feelings are towards Hegel and his thesis, antithesis, and then synthesis, but you can then kind of see you have Judaism as a thesis, Christianity as the antithesis, and Muhammad creating a synthesis to get, a compromise so that people could live peacefully. And that sort of worked, and through political system, then you get this whole caliphate, big Islam empire, but also the flourishing of science, the start, the rebirth of science, because of course the real start of science is with Aristotle. But they saw Aristotle as the father, the father teacher. So they were so eager to take up all.
Why did they go back to Greek culture?
Well, they were in contact, and they conquered, of course, Egypt and all these regions that were heavily influenced by Hellenistic culture as well. So they had the sources already there. But it's an interesting question how they exactly knew about all those things. My feeling is that we're very like we're very centristic in our thinking, both in space and in time. We're very centristic in thinking that how we are thinking now is like an evolution, and how we are able to communicate now is so much faster than in the past. But also in the past, they were very interested in how other regions in the world were thinking. And of course, they weren't really able to know how the Native Americans were thinking, but the rest of the world was kind of connected, and those ideas were circulating, and albeit at a slower pace than internet today, but give it 10 years, and those ideas, we're finally ready, Charles. So we have both been in Saudi Arabia, actually, where all these things are happening. So you know that Cardamom is an important one. How many do you want to add?
Not too many.
Not too many? Go for it.
Oh, I can add?
Yes.
Great.
Go for it.
1, 2, 3 cardamom.
So in the recipe from my Moroccan friends, there's also some cinnamon. You
How
want to
much
add?
do we add in there?
Yeah, just go for it. Go
I
for
think
it.
this is more than enough.
This is, I think it's just, this is a bit of ginger. You want to add a bit of the ginger?
Sure, why not?
So this is really, this episode is, you know, richness in diversity. So this says paprika, but it's not paprika. I'm not able to smell anymore what it is. This should be
They are paprika seeds.
finocchio. This is finocchio.
They are paprika seeds.
No, it's not. It's something. Has these seeds, these small seeds.
Powder.
Sia sheets.
Yeah.
But
Add them as well?
oh, you can add a few. Yes. Oh, that's
a lot.
that was a generous amount. And so this is finocchio. Finocchio. How do you translate this in English?
This is fennel.
Fennel
seed.
Fennel. That's exactly. So go. I would be not too generous with finocchio. Yeah. Just okay. And so we just have one more minute to wait. Although we had quite a discussion.
True, but so so he bringing that all back to Aristotle and the birth of science, and I think what's interesting to see is that in the link also with Star Wars is that we haven't actually talked about that. Is that you have to do that story because you know more about that, but what you see is that these characters try to synthesize the human condition that we started about and try to give some guidance to
Oh yes,
humans.
Accidents do happen.
Yes. So I think a lot of it's easy to judge and to frame something as right or wrong, but there's always both right and wrong. So it's about finding the right path and the way forwards, which is where I really draw on Eastern philosophy, which is my passion. Which is they don't talk about right and wrong. They talk about wise or a path or a way, which combines these subtleties of right and wrong. And this also comes back a little bit in Star Wars when they talk about cultivating the Jedi, and also in the later episodes when they talk about the way, this is the way.
Yes, that's actually in the later series,
Yeah.
which wasn't actually invented by George Lucas himself. I mean, of course, it took inspiration. But yes, to come kind of to a synthesis, because we talked about how Islam was important for coffee and to peace.
To peace.
We talked about it's an interesting blend, isn't it?
I like it. It's actually not too heavy on the non-coffee things, which I like.
Yes,
I don't like it when it's too much herbs.
And you can also still add pepper and things like this. I'm getting a bit of adrift because it's actually a nice experience here. So coffee we get through Islam, science we got through Islam. We also got the Jedis through Islam. Now
That's the story you have to say, because
Yeah.
I was just saying the story.
It's well known that George Lucas took inspiration from different religions to come to his synthesis and to his abstraction of religion in the Star Wars movies. But it's not as outspoken that in all likelihood he took also a lot of inspiration from Islam and Sufis in particular. So there's a claim, and please corroborate this in the comments if you have any actual knowledge on this, that he visited a group of Sufis in California as he was preparing for this. And there's actually, there's a Japanese word that means dramatic piece or something like this that has part of Jedi in it. But there is also an Arabic word, al-Jedi, that actually means mystical warrior, and kind of in the Sufi tradition. So the Sufis, so they are not the ones that, they study the Quran. They're not like the scholastics, so they're not like the Islam philosophers. They look for the experience. They're more like ascetics. They're more like Franciscus de Assisi. And what is really nice, and why I wanted to discuss this, was that they look for peace between different religions as well. So as we're enjoying this coffee here, with all the herbs blended nicely together, which as coffee purists is sometimes a little bit difficult, but we should open up our minds and hearts for this kind of experience.
Yeah.
I will share this poem from Ibn Arabi. My heart has become capable of all forms, a prairie for the gazelles, a convent for monks, a temple for idols, a Kaaba for the pilgrim. The tablets of the Torah, the book of the Quran. I profess the religion of love, and regardless of which direction its steed may lead, love is my religion and my faith. You see how he mentions all these different religious options. This is a great book, The Voyage of No Return. It actually follows his conversion. But it's also interesting reading this as a non-religious person, which actually both Charles and myself are, but it's very fascinating. But she actually says, don't interpret this as, him saying it's okay that you believe anything else. He still believes in his version of the truth. And this is already, or has been used in kind of New Age synthesis of religions and things like this. And I claim also in the Force that we see in Star Wars, the thing that surrounds us. But the words are unmistakable, and in other parts he wrote a lot of poetry, and there she claims some things he would put in his poetry rather than in his more essayistic like writings. So Charles, I see you enjoyed that much that you're having a second tasting.
That's right.
That's right. So this has been a fascinating voyage, I guess, through history.
Yes.
Through all religions, ending up with peace.
Where do the Sufis now? Where do people find Sufis? Where do they live?
Well, so one more thing I want to mention about.
It is very hot.
Be careful with that.
Whoops.
So Ibn Arabi, he was a Sufi, very seminal in actually their whole movement. He knew Averroes, which is actually their Arabic name is Ibn Rushdi. One of his sayings was that if philosophy leads us to a certain reasoning and that contradicts the Quran, then we have to interpret the Quran allegorically, right? We have to see it as a metaphor. It's the same thing that we have to do as Christians. We have to sing that clash with our sense of morality or rationality and just look behind the words, see the allegory, the metaphor that allows us to share the human experience all together, despite that we might have different views on the world, right? So he was he was appraising this philosopher, although he was not a philosopher himself. So that was one last thing I actually found important in mentioning. But this journey of spiritual voyages to seek the truth, to help others to find this moral life. Last thing, he was actually following Jesus. He was specifically looking to Jesus as the perfect example of universal sainthood.
Okay.
And it's often forgotten that within Islam, first of all, they accept the virgin birth of Maria.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Many people don't know that.
Yeah,
I think, yeah.
they just have one more prophet than the Christians, and the Christians have one more prophet than the Jewish people.
Yeah, and do Muslims also have is Maria called Maria, or does it?
Yeah, yes.
Yeah.
Well, and Jesus is called Isa, if
Isa,
I'm not mistaken. But these religions touch on so many points, and for Ibn Arabi, Jesus was truly an inspiration. And then you see also his poem to kind of that connects all these feelings and religions basically together. So this is just what we have to do. So maybe we can, in Christianity, when we have to share peace, we actually give each other a hand. So I reach out my hand towards you as well. If you have any ideas on, sharing this or, sharing peace, of course, leave a comment, and thanks for this brainstorm here.
Happy to help.
And the voyage. And yeah, thanks for watching, and hope to see you next time.